social media, Facebook land, Instagram land, everybody who's checking this out. Thank you so much for tuning in and for joining us today. I guess kind of post-interview because we're not streaming this live, but thank you so much for checking out the project, for tuning in, for supporting it, and for just taking an interest to this music and this project. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to people who have played in the band. So thank you very much. My name is Denin Koch. I'm the composer and guitarist for Manhattan Project, and I'm hanging out here with the trombonist on the record, but more importantly, my good buddy Jonathan Bumpus. What's up, man?
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
I'm doing all right. And you're in Ann Arbor, right?
Yep, here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, hanging out during the quarantine.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're a big Ohio State fan then.
Yeah, that's actually the opposite of what I am.
Well, cool, man. Let's talk a little bit about the record and the music a little bit. You had the unique experience since we did the premiere and the recording in Rochester, New York. You had the unique experience of not actually rehearsing with the band at all before you showed up to play. We'd been rehearsing for a little over a month before the performance started, and the first time you played this music was the night we premiered it, and then you recorded it 2 days later. What was that like for you to perform something that is something pretty highly orchestrated and something pretty complex and taxing? What was it like to just show up and do it?
It was electrifying. uh, I'd say in general, for whatever reason, I don't really get nervous playing jazz music most of the time. I usually tend to be just kind of chill and in the moment and not put too much pressure on myself. Just try to play in the moment with other people. But for this experience, I was pretty considerably nervous going into it. Not because I was scared to play the music or unfamiliar with the musicians. I mean, I was familiar with the music on paper, having studied your scores and the parts. And I played with all those guys before. Like Seiji, I was in a group with at Eastman, and Steven and Rob both played on my recital. So, and you obviously, we've been playing together for 6+ years now. So I wasn't so much nervous about that. I think mostly I was just nervous about how do you balance spontaneity and being in the moment with fitting into an established group rapport.
Hmm.
I wanted to do my best to feel like an established member of this group that had been rehearsing for a few hours a week for a couple months by that point, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think that was the biggest challenge: is how do you show up and bring a level of spontaneity and also try to fit in with a group. Um, so it was a great experience, man. Definitely a new challenge for me.
Yeah. And kind of talking about that too, you did a phenomenal job. You fit like a glove, and I don't know if I hadn't told anyone, I doubt that anyone would be able to tell that you hadn't rehearsed with us before. So when you got there and kind of started playing and figuring things out, and even as you kind of studied the score a little bit, was there any sort of defined role that you found yourself fitting into?
Yeah, I think with it being a guitar driven group and with me being the only horn player, I think when we played together, I felt my role was to complement you and to fit within your sound. And then in improvisation, I tried to really make myself contrast with you. How can I sort of just bring something different to the table than what you bring? And I think our styles have um, really, I mean, we've been trading and bouncing ideas off each other for a long time. And so having that familiarity with your style in the context of this music that I was um, relatively unfamiliar with, I tried to just kind of bring something different and make a contrast with what you were playing.
So you mentioned a little bit trying to fit into that role and the specific challenges of trying to fit into a group that you hadn't really played with before. Were there any other specific challenges within the music or interesting or unique moments that really stood out to you when you were playing or recording?
Um, Definitely the freely improvised movement was probably the biggest challenge because it seemed like that was the one piece where most of the band had a sort of a predetermined language, a predetermined path and shape to the piece, and that was one where I really had to acclimate and listen carefully and try to carve out a role for myself. I think with so much freedom and so much space, um, and you guys having had sort of a conception of how that piece went, um, it was a little it was a fun challenge to dive in and figure out how to create space for myself within that and contribute to the movement and add to the movement.
Yeah, that one was, speaking as a composer, that movement is interesting because that movement has the least amount of material provided to you, but also took the longest for me to write.
Hmm.
It was strange. I took multiple stabs at trying to write that movement, and nothing came out until I kind of just decided that there would be basically no writing at all, no instruction at all. And so the way you guys interpreted that was really nice. Um, was there any sort of, I guess, in regards to like the emotional challenges of the piece, was there any ways and you think that affected your performance or kind of instructed what you did in your improvisations or anything like that?
Hmm. Yeah, that was something that really hit me hard playing through it the first time because that to be honest I hadn't really even considered the emotional aspect of the music. um, I tend to be more of a um, thought driven player than feel driven and mood driven player,
Hmm.
just by nature. And so showing up and having the lights dim down, having it all be in just one consecutive suite, and obviously with the narration, the subject matter, um, it was really impactful, and I don't think I was prepared for that.
So, and I guess this question you can relate musically or subject matter wise, however. I'm curious because I've thought about this question some myself as well, and I'm curious to hear your take on it. How do you see, if you do see this music or project being relevant to the world today, whether it be in the world of music or the world of current events or anything like that? Is there any way in which you feel like this really resonates with you and what we see in the world right now?
Hmm, it's a good question. I think I think music is a gift. Art is a gift that makes life better, can help inform how we live, and especially in a time of crisis like we're living in right now, anytime we have someone using their voice to speak a message and use music as that medium, I think it's really powerful. I'm not sure how it directly relates to coronavirus, maybe, but I just love your vulnerability and your openness and your creativity and exploring this kind of element of who you are and the place that you grew up in, and um, using that to spread a message of peace and nonviolence. I think is it's pretty awesome that you use your gifts in that way.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I wasn't fishing for compliments, but thank you. Um, so I guess, and now thinking in terms of your career and your whole music thing, how have you been responding to the COVID pandemic when it's such a strange time to be a musician, when what we do is so collaborative, but obviously collaboration is really difficult right now. How have you responded, or do you feel differently about your art or your purpose?
Hmm. Yeah, me personally, I've been trying to use it as an opportunity to hone in on some technical things that I've been wanting to work on. Um, been able to transcribe other players that I don't normally get to transcribe, and especially with my teaching, it's been forcing me to be creative with new ways of teaching and instructing and interacting with my students. I put together a series of videos called Three Isolated Duets, written
Hmm.
for my high school level students, in which I wrote three duets and recorded both parts, and then put the videos together so that the student could see the sheet music and hear me playing one part, and they could play the other part, and then vice versa. Um, that was a fun challenge for me, and
That's
it's gotten
awesome.
positive feedback from my students so far. So
That's awesome, man. Have you thought about putting that out as a recording or some sort of etude book or anything like that? Do you see anything like that with that in the future?
I would love to. I think I'd want to expand on it more, probably put a few more together, but I love that opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be great. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for hanging out and chatting about the record and all this. I hope we get to play together soon. Even though we're separated by the virus and by distance, I always love playing with you and appreciate your friendship. And yeah, go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Thanks for having me, Dan. It's been a pleasure and honor to see your growth as a musician since you were 18, I was 19, and now here we are. So thanks for bringing me along.
Absolutely, man. And likewise. All right, take care.